Hello, everybody. Welcome back to No Trailers Allowed, my movie and streaming show podcast where I do not watch any trailers beforehand. I'm your host, Jersh. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find more episodes on my website, superjersh.com. To support me and get this podcast early and ad-free, you can visit patreon.com/superjersh. The video version of this podcast is available on youtube.com/superjersh. To follow me on social media, I'm on Twitter and Instagram @superjersh. To email me about any questions, comments, or suggestions that you have movie or streaming show related, the email address is NoTrailersAllowed@gmail.com. I want to welcome new patrons, Trish and Abigail. Thank you, Patreon executive producers, Mirrors, Trish, and I Love Manatees. Thank you, legendary Patreon producer, Zelbinian. On this episode, I'm going to talk about The Green Knight. The Green Knight stars Dev Patel, Alicia, Vikander, and Joel Edgerton and was directed by David Lowery. I'm going to talk about it in a spoiler-free capacity at the start, and then I will talk about some more spoiler-related thoughts at the end. Timestamps are in the show notes for the video and the audio of this podcast. So as I said at the top, I did not watch the trailer for this movie. I did not know anything that it was about. I was vaguely aware of it because of like film Twitter, basically. I guess like a year and a half ago when the movie started to first have a trailer release and get buzz and get talked about. My dates and timing in the pandemic couple of years here is very sparse and strange and weird. So I don't remember, when things got announced, when they got pushed or delayed or moved around. I'm not sure. I just feel like it was a long time ago that I heard the title of the movie, The Green Knight, and I saw a still image of Dev Patel wearing a crown. That's really all that I knew. And so because I knew next to nothing about this movie, in the spoiler-free section, I'm going to share, next to nothing from the specifics of the movie. I just want to stay at the top that I absolutely love this movie. It's like one of my favorite movie watching experiences that I've ever had. It was something. So here's what I will say. I heard or saw somewhere that it was like on sale to rent for like 99 cents on iTunes, and when I went to rent it to finally check it out, I saw that I could buy it for $10. So I went ahead and bought it. Because I did have a little bit of familiarity with David Lowery as a director. He made a movie a few years ago called A Ghost Story, which I actually have a soft spot in my heart for that movie. That movie really stuck with me, and I think about it a lot, even though I did have a couple of issues with the movie, which this movie will have a similar issue. I'll talk about it in spoilers, but I think A Ghost Story is a movie that everybody should watch at least once, because the positives and kind of the big ideas and the ponderances that it gives you, I think is very much worth the time. And I feel like The Green Knight is like a growth and a maturation since I saw A Ghost Story, because it has that same kind of like self-serious, this matters vibe, but it's a little bit more earned, and I was like in with it. I was like, this is serious and this does matter. So I will speak vaguely about some of the the high points, and then I will jump into spoilers. I really liked the performances in this movie. I thought Dev Patel was great. The side characters, which I did not give away all the other side characters that are in this movie because I want them to be kind of a surprise for people who maybe were able to catch this movie on potentially my recommendation and hadn't seen the trailer. I think there's a lot of fun in the surprise of the journey of this movie, what the main conceit is, what the main problem that Dev Patel has to deal with, and then the other mini problems that are kind of solved along the way and related to the end. This movie really reminded me of a video game in a lot of ways, where you have like the big quest and then you have like little side quests along the way that you can do that feel like maybe they're a little bit one-off, but they do kind of actually attach to the themes of the whole big idea. So I had like a very kind of mythic, gothic, like almost like a Dark Souls feel to The Green Knight. And yeah, I really I like Dev Patel's performance because he's asked to be like very weak and very strong sometimes at the same time, and I feel like he pulls it off really well. I really enjoyed the story. It's a more of a character type story. It's like the plot that is laid out to you in the first 10 or 15 minutes is, there's not a lot of twists and turns. It just has fun with the characters in this scenario going down, this kind of synopsis. Also, I want to say, apparently, this movie is based on a very popular old poem or story that has an anonymous author that is centuries old. I'd never read the story either, so I had no idea like what the parable or moral of the story was kind of supposed to be until it really, revealed itself. So I didn't really have any expectations of like how it would compare to the poem. Obviously after I watched the movie and I was able to educate myself a little bit more after avoiding spoilers for the movie, I found that it was based on this poem, which I don't consider that a spoiler because I feel like I'm in the minority of people that didn't know that it was based on a poem. Apparently, it's very popular and a lot of people were aware of it. I won't say what the poem, what the story is of the poem, because then maybe that would give away the movie. I don't know what changed and what was the same, but yeah, having said that, it is based on a really old poem. There are some, it is basically a period piece, and there's a lot with the period piece comes costumes and set design and locations that uh I felt like felt like very mythic and gothic and were awesome and had such a variety, and they kind of hit all of the things that you would want to see in that setting as far as like locations and weather and colors, and I just loved it all. I thought the music was like really good as well. It like really added kind of to the epic scope and feeling of the movie, which um this movie, it's funny that this movie feels epic. The budget, it did not have a very big budget, but this movie, like the cinematography in this movie is some of my favorite cinematography that I've ever seen. It's such a beautifully shot movie. It's my dog Yoshi making a noise. So I want to share my experience of like I started to tell the story a moment ago, but I'll get back to it. So, uh, telling the story, telling the story. When I started to watch this movie, I started it kind of late at night. My plan was I'll get it's it's a little over 2 hours. It's kind of a long movie. I'm pressed for time. My schedule is busy. I'll watch a little bit of it tonight and then I'll finish it the next night or whatever, right? And my lights were on in the living room. I do have a nice big 4K television that is like my main primary movie watching TV, and but the lights were on in the living room and I just was casually just like, yeah, whatever. I'm sure this will be a good movie. 5 minutes into this movie, I paused it, turned off all the lights, and like put the phone away, and I was like, this movie has my attention. I want to enjoy this visually, and I want to kind of maximize the viewing experience. Like I said, I've got a pretty large movie watching television, and with at night with the lights out, it's like a really good at home theater experience for me personally. I have a basic sound bar with subwoofer, and I was like all in on this movie. I was like, I want to know what happens. I want to know what it's about. I will say, like, I was really tempted to put on the subtitles because some of the old kind of accent speak, which kind of really reminded me of The Witch in a lot of ways, as far as like period piece, old Gothic, old English accents that are like they're so thick, like you can't. It's hard. Even the text on the screen, which is like old English text, is like hard to read because it's just trying to be so old timey. So it's kind of hard to understand. It's kind of hard to read. I was really tempted to put on subtitles, but I didn't. I knew this was going to be a movie that I like rewatch over and over from here on in, and I did not want to kind of spoil the experience of just enjoying the visuals and kind of the spectacle of the movie. And I keep saying spectacle just because it has such a power to it and an energy to it, and they really were able to pull off something special. I think on a really limited budget, under $20 million. I mean, this movie, it's not. I, I'm trying how to describe it. Like it's everything together. It's the actors in the costumes, in the locations, how it's shot with the music. Like, it all just comes together so well. And so I was like dying to know what Academy Awards that this movie was nominated for, because I was like, cinematography check, costumes check, probably music check, maybe even Dev Patel as a lead. He doesn't have as much dialogue as maybe as like an Oscar type performance would have, but he really, he acts, he performs, he emotes in kind of a believable, serious way, in sort of a maybe always not so serious situation. But anyway, turns out I didn't see that it was nominated for anything. If it was, I missed it. But the fact that it wasn't at least nominated for cinematography, like, is a crime. Like, why do you have those awards? Why do they even exist? Anyway, nothing but high praise for this movie. I want to get over to spoilers really quick and just share a couple of extra thoughts. But if this movie wasn't on your radar, if you weren't interested in this movie, if you enjoy beautiful cinematography, mysterious movies with multiple locations, and really solid performances, and kind of a commitment to the material from a kind of a language standpoint and a period piece standpoint, I really, really, really recommend this movie. Like, I just think it's so gorgeous. I think there are images and shots and sequences in the movie that will stick with you, that are memorable because they don't, you don't get them from any other movie. Like, yes, it is a bummer that it's based on a pre-existing material, but I mean, has this movie, I've never heard, like, The Green Knight, I've like literally never heard of it. So if there was a prior film version and this is some sort of remake, I'm not aware of it. To my knowledge, this is the first filmed version of this very old poem, and I really, really liked it, and we'll talk about spoilers really quick. Did you know that if you support me on patreon.com/superjersh, you can get this podcast early and ad-free? You probably didn't know that because you're listening to this promotion right now. Which means you also probably didn't know that there are dozens of hours of Patreon exclusive content over there, like full album music reactions and full movie watch-along commentaries. So head on over to patreon.com/superjersh to help the music and movie discussions continue. And for you gamers out there, don't forget to check out my gaming-focused YouTube channel, youtube.com/jershplays. Recently, I've been focusing on Guild Wars 2, Overwatch, and Fortnite, but there are also dozens of hours of gameplay videos for single-player games like Detroit Become Human and the Resident Evil series. Subscribe to that channel ASAP. It's free and helps a lot. Speaking of free, if Patreon isn't your thing, make sure you are liking the posts, commenting, sharing, rating, and reviewing, and subscribing everywhere that you can if you enjoy anything that I produce, music, movie, or gaming related. The only way it can continue is with your help. If this is all too much to remember and you want to see the different types of content I'm producing all in one place, just visit my website, superjersh.com. Full spoiler warning for The Green Knight right now. If you haven't seen this movie, I really strongly recommend that you check it out, even if it's just a rental for you. It's 2 hours, it's gorgeous, and it really has some interesting ideas in it and some really memorable sequences in it, in my personal opinion, and I highly recommend it. So you've been warned. I'm going to talk about spoiler moments for the movie, which I guess I will start with what is revealed in the trailer. So I watched I don't know if I watched the whole trailer or parts of the trailer. I saw some of the trailer after I watched the movie, and it gives away the whole setup that, like, there's this magical spell and this Green Knight is summoned and Dev Patel cuts off his head, and a year from now he's going to have his head cut off, and all these different side quests and wonders, and like the ghost and the underwater sequence and running into Barry Keoghan. It gives away all of like the wonder and the joy that I got from this movie, because I didn't know what it was about, man. Like when that when his mom, and I was really confused. I was like, hey, wait, okay, so his mom is some sort of sorceress or witch. Why is she summoning this monster to basically go into, which after the fact, after I read into some trivia, I finally realized it was King Arthur. Like, I heard in like the mumbled old English in the beginning of the movie something about sword and stone, so I didn't know if he was supposed to be Arthur or if his uncle was supposed to be Arthur. That was genuinely lost on me as I was watching the movie. until I got towards the end, and I was like, oh, okay. Um, because that's like the round table or whatever. Anyway, um, I didn't know what to expect, and I was like, why is his mom like? Oh my god! It's like, is he getting in good with the king, only to find out that his mom is like some sort of traitorous sorcerer, and now the king is gonna say, I need you to hunt down and kill your mom because I'm welcoming you into the kingdom, into the royalty fold, but your mom is off the handle. She can't keep calling monsters like this. I'm just saying, the joy of watching movies without trailers is the wonder and like kind of like the childlike emotions that can occur. I can't tell you, just for me personally, like if I'll go when I go listen to reviews after I watch movies, or sometimes after I record my own reviews, because I want to know what other people think out there. I can't tell you how many people say like, unfortunately, that was given away in the trailer, or I knew this was going to happen because of the trailer, or the trailer gave away too much. It happens all the time, every genre, every budget scale. Movies are better. Like if you become aware of a movie that you think you might want to see, then just watch it. And I'm going to say that probably every episode of this podcast while it exists, because I genuinely believe in that methodology, especially if you love movies as much as I do, and it's such a big, serious hobby and part of your life, and storytelling and learning lessons and entertaining and educating and like bringing people together and just like all the wonderful things that really good movies can do. I feel like that you owe it to yourself, and you kind of owe it to the filmmakers to let the experience speak for itself. Anyway, so the trailer gives away that like all of the setup, some of the side quests with the ghost and the underwater and running into Joel Edgerton at the castle, and that Alicia Vikander like basically plays two roles, which was like it was a fun surprise for me because I didn't know that the fucking fox talks. Like when I was watching the movie and that fox spoke, I was like, oh my fucking god. Like I was totally caught off guard and surprised. Like I knew that it like felt this connection, and I thought that maybe it was some sort of like a guiding spirit. I I think it's my understanding now, the general consensus is that that was some sort of protector of his, either his mother herself, or a spirit, or a family member, or like a dead relative or something, or there's a lot of questions as to like, was his mother around the whole time? I don't personally feel that way because his mom literally called in the Green Knight to set up this challenge for her son. She knew what she was fucking doing when she summons this like green demon to massacre people. Um, and again, like in the moment of the movie when Dev Patel's character Gawain, I guess it's pronounced different ways. I'm going to call him Gawain. Uh, when he's given kind of the choice, when he suddenly stands up and says, "I will," I'm like, that's completely out of character for you, dude. You're a drunkard, womanizer, silver spoon kid. You wouldn't do that. That's the point of the movie, is that he is that character and he's trying to become something else. And I really loved kind of the ideas that were played with, as far as like, can you become greater than you are? How much do the circumstances with which you're brought into this world determine what type of person you're going to be and what your level of greatness can be achieved? And I really loved how the side quests of like, running into the giants, and I do feel like the movie slowed down a little bit at the castle with Joel Edgerton. It was probably, the biggest, most important character sequence because it was the last pit stop before the confrontation with the Green Knight. And at the end, when he finally does have a confrontation with the Green Knight, I noticed when the Green Knight was coming to life, I saw that they like did an effect where it kind of looked like Joel Edgerton, and so I think the movie was trying to tease that like that was the Green Knight, um, but they didn't want to actually commit to it. They wanted to keep it open. Which, speaking of open, we'll talk about the ending in a second. So yeah, I really the other part that I want to talk about with the castle. So I said earlier, minor spoilers for A Ghost Story. If you haven't seen A Ghost Story, I really recommend watching it, especially if you liked The Green Knight, because A Ghost Story is like a Green Knight light. It's like similar serious and epic themes and memorable moments, but it's not shot quite as beautifully. It's not the performances aren't quite as memorable. Anyway, I do recommend watching it though. So there is a moment in A Ghost Story where a character goes on like a 5-minute exposition dump somewhere in the middle of the movie, where he basically states the theme of the movie, the reason the movie exists, the journey that like the main character is going on in the movie. And we got something similar here with Alicia Vikander's I guess proper royal version of her character, the other woman she was playing, um, where they talk about the color green, how green, people can be green with envy, and also green is like moss, and green can be beautiful and lush like the grass, but then if it's moldy, we wash it away, and it's like all of these different metaphors that the Green Knight is supposed to stand for. The movie just grinds to a screeching halt so that she can explain it to you, and I don't understand this filmmaker's compulsion to do that, because it is definitely a pattern now where it's like that's literally the same thing you did in the last movie that I watched that you made, and I'm certain if I watched another movie you made, you're gonna do the same thing, because it's like it's a character, it's like your character flaw. You can't help it. Like everything has been mystical and engaging for the audience, and ponderous, and like engaging, and it's like just for the dummy dumbs out there, here's everything laid out in 5 minutes, and it really kind of it doesn't quite cancel out, but it lessens the impact of the show don't tell around it, in my opinion. But what I loved in this movie is how the side quests, the Barry Keoghan, every time you see that kid, you're dealing with the dipshit, and maybe he's typecast now, but that's just what you're getting. So it's like the second I saw him, I'm like, this isn't good, and I was right. What I didn't expect was that he would literally lose everything. He would lose all of his armor and the sword, everything that he was like all dressed up to go out and fight, that he would just lose it instantly. I didn't expect that. That was a nice twist. And I did really I liked the long 2-minute pan around where it comes around and he's a skeleton. To my mind, that was like a very pivotal character moment for him. Like, I can be this little bitch. I can be this whiner and say, oh, woe is me, I'm in over my head, I guess I'll just lay here and die. And it's like he like looked into his future. I can stay weak and I can die, or I can find an inner strength within myself, become more than I have been, and prove that I'm capable of more, and get the fuck out of here and live. And so I really, really, really loved that moment. And so he does that, and he tries to cut the rope, and all the time in movies when characters cut their hands out of ropes or ties, like nothing ever happens to their hands. So I love that the sword like fucking cut him, and he's like, ah, and it like really hurt. And then anyway, I thought I did kind of I wanted a comeuppance with the Barry Keoghan character. I wanted it to wrap around that short story. Like, I literally wanted the Green Knight. I wanted the Green Knight to resolve, and then I wanted a re-confrontation with Barry Keoghan. Like, now I am a knight and you done fucked up. Like, I really feel like that would have been it would have been a more of a final stamp of an ending for that character, but it's probably a less compelling ending for the movie, so I understand why we didn't go back. But yeah, anyway, so I loved all of the side quests, and on every single one of those side quests, he's being a pissant. He's trying to take the easy way out. He's asking for help. He asks the giants for a ride. He asks the ghost what he's going to get in return. He tries to be cheap with the beggar, right? He's always only thinking of himself, and always only thinking of the easy way out. And all the way he does that, this magic sash, which my opinion of the sash is that it is two separate sashes, but it's the same magical spell, which is why it's replicated. Like, if you are a witch or a sorceress, this is what you do to create the invulnerability spell. You get this green sash, you put this stone in it. Maybe it doesn't have to be green, but green is a motif of the movie, so of course you make it green. But whatever it is, it's the sash with this stone and this ritual, and then now you're invulnerable. So I feel like the first one was genuinely stolen and gone and is still out in the world, and he used this one because he got it from the Alicia Vikander character. And again, it's easier to give in to temptation and cheat than to stay strong. You literally have the same woman at home, except you have an emotional attachment and she likes you for who you are before you're given riches. And yeah, there's just so much to love about the movie from the character and journey perspective. So he finally gets to the Green Knight, and God damn that I loved that shot through the trees of him on the ground in his cape with the Green Knight sleeping, and the day-night cycles of waiting, and to really drive home, like, I'm not going anywhere, I'm here to be brave, I'm here to finish this story. Like at the beginning, in the first 10 minutes of the movie, I was like, "You're a fool. Everything you're doing is dumb. I hate that you think that you are good enough for this. I hate that you cut off his head at all. You shouldn't have done that, you moron." And then we go through this journey with the character, and we get to the end, and I'm like, "Good for you, man. You should sit here. This is your rite of passage. You know, you created this storm." And so the Green Knight wakes, and we have this really great, I loved it, loved it, loved it. The basically La La Land, see the alternate future sequence, because I didn't know we were seeing the alternate future. I thought we were just seeing the end of the movie. And I thought the point of the movie was going to be he dies anyway. And so, like, as I'm watching this final sequence of like this time lapse of his life where he, you know, steals the child and goes to war and loses the castle and people betray him and he finally, the sash is removed and he's beheaded, whatever, right? I thought the moral there was going to be, and then the movie was going to end, and the point of the movie was going to be, we all die. You have to choose, you know, what your legacy is when you're dead. Did you die a coward running away and live an old life, or did you die brave, you know, owning up to your mistakes, those types of things? And so what the movie does is it gets that moral in your head, it gets that theme into your head, but then it does right by the journey of the character where we come back, like the flash forward stops, he says wait, he takes off the sash and completely gives in and says, I'm ready. And then the Green Knight says, he says like some sort of positive word of affirmation, like good job, or now you are ready, or like that's what he was waiting for, letting go of that last final safety net. And then he says, off with your head, and it cuts to black. And I know that there's like some speculation or question as to if there was a double meaning for that. I don't think there was a double meaning. I think he literally meant off with your head as in I'm going to cut off your head. I don't think he was saying now leave with your head. I think that's a real stretch. I know that that's a consensus out there with some of the other opinions that I've looked at. But I think that it is meant to be ambiguous, but not because the words have different meaning, but because the delivery has a different meaning. You can't tell if he's being serious, or you can't tell if he's joking about that he's going to cut off his head, but he actually isn't going to. Because he has like this twinkle in his eye smile as it cuts to black, like, oh my God, I fucking loved. It's like, yeah, another really great ending to another really good movie that I've seen recently, Nightmare Alley being the other one. Yeah, what a great movie. I'm so glad I took a chance on it. I'm so glad I bought it instead of rented it so that I can rewatch it. Everything about it I really loved. Again, it slowed down a little bit at the castle, and some of the commitment to the old English text and voice work at the beginning. It's like, I don't know what you're saying, and I don't know what you're saying on screen, but I'm in. You know, I'm on your side. But yeah, I liked it a lot, and I hope you did too. That is going to do it for this episode of No Trailers Allowed. Did you enjoy The Green Knight? What did you think of my thoughts on the movie, spoiler free or spoiler filled? Email me, let me know. NoTrailersAllowed@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to find more, you can visit my website, superjersh.com. You can support me and get this podcast early and ad-free by visiting patreon.com/superjersh. You can watch the video version of this podcast on youtube.com/superjersh. You can follow me on social media on Twitter and Instagram @superjersh. And yeah, we're also on Spotify and iTunes. If you're listening to this publicly or you're watching this publicly, give the Spotify and the iTunes a rating and a review. I would really appreciate it to help try to find an audience on the internet. It is a very crowded place. As always, thank you for watching or listening. Until next time.